Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. In today's video, I have a very interesting thing to talk about, and that's the Luxiajun Mastery Power Bar, which you can see right here. Now, this bar checks all the boxes in what I look for in a bar, right? It's 29 millimeters in diameter. It's a stainless steel shaft with aggressive knurling. It's hard chrome sleeves with thin competition style collars and 200K PSI. Perfect, 10 out of 10. And it's not the only bar that I have that has those same numbers, but again, if I were to describe the perfect powerlifting bar, this would meet those standards exactly. The most interesting thing, however, about this bar is that when I come down to the basement on a day-to-day basis to train, I tend to find myself reaching for this bar instead of my tried and true Ohio Power Bar. This has become my daily driver, a Luxiajun Mastery Power Bar. And I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. I've been recommending the Ohio Power Bar to people and telling people that it's my main bar for the past 5 years. But in the past month, times they are a-changing. 2020 is wild, my friends, but I like this bar a lot. I gave you the main specs that are important to me for a power bar. If you want to check out the other specs behind it, I'm gonna link it in the description box below, obviously, but let's break this down real quick. It's not a perfect bar by any means, but again, it's quickly become my favorite. So the main specs I'm concerned about is the diameter. This is a 29 millimeter bar, which I believe all power bars should be. And the idea behind that is you want the stiffest bar possible, so that way it's good for squatting, benching, and deadlifting. You know, I do see people using 28.5 millimeter bars, 28 millimeter bars. I've tested those out as well. And while they're doable for the main 3 lifts, I find that they start to take a hit on heavier loads on things like squatting and benching, but excelling in things on deadlifting. So they're not the perfect bar for everything, whereas a stiff power bar, in my opinion, could be that. So 29 millimeters, this is going to be a stiff bar overall. Now, when you add to the fact that this has thin competition style collars and the weights are pulled in even further, you're going to experience even less whip and flex in the bar under heavy loads, in addition to that 29 millimeter thickness. So that's one of the reasons I've really been liking this. It's really good for squatting, benching, and deadlifting. I used it in my most recent squatting video. The bar has held up fantastically well. And even for those who deadlift, pulling on a stiff bar is generally harder for 99.99% of the population. So if you compete in the USAPL or the IPF, which traditionally uses a stiff bar for all 3 main lifts, this is going to be right up your alley because the thin style collars are very similar to what you'll find on an Eleiko powerlifting bar or even like a Rogue 20 kg Ohio Power Bar. But I think this one has a leg up on the Rogue version, which I'll get into in this video. So if you compete in a federation with a stiff bar or are looking for a bar to do it all, this is a good bar, and you don't have to buy multiple bars and you don't have to spend a lot of money buying a squat bar, a deadlift bar, and another power bar to do things like bench with. This one could do it all, which is great because number one, it's more affordable that way than buying 3 different bars. And also, let's be honest, nothing's in stock anyways. Chances of you buying 3 barbells that you want all at once, not likely gonna happen. And as of the time of this video, this is in stock and available to order. So kind of checks the box there with the stiffness. Now, obviously I mentioned I just squatted with this and it's held up well, but even if you take a look at my buddy Yu Ren, who's been able to pull over 800 pounds on this bar, you can see that it hardly bends or flex, relatively speaking, to if he was to do that on a deadlift bar. So even if you compete in a league that uses deadlift bars or you like to pull on a deadlift bar, I still think training with a stiff power bar can help you in the long run because again, it's generally harder for most people to do so. So if you get your deadlift up using this, when you transition to that deadlift bar, that should have a positive impact and your deadlift pull on a deadlift bar should also go up. As opposed to, let's say, only training on a deadlift bar and trying to transition to a federation that uses a stiff bar, you're gonna find that your deadlift is probably less than you think because again, generally speaking, it's harder for people to pull on a stiff bar than it is a pool noodle. So this bar could be very good for anyone potentially, all 3 lifts, and it's in stock. But that's not where the story ends. I mentioned that it's a stainless steel shaft. That is my coating or bar of choice because I really care about having to maintain my bars. I like my equipment to look good. I don't like things to rust and get beat up. So it has a very high resistance to oxidation. So you're not gonna have to maintain this bar as much as something like a bare steel bar. And it's also because it's a stainless steel version, it's not an extra coating on the bar. You're not gonna have any dulling of the knurling like you might with black zinc or E-coat or Cerakote or chrome. So not only does this hold up very well, but also gives you probably the best feel of a barbell outside of bare steel. But again, you get all those resistant properties with the stainless option of it. So it looks good and it feels good. Now, speaking of feeling good, this is an aggressively knurled bar like I mentioned. Now for me, The definition of I look at it aggressive, because I had to explain this to someone the other day, is how deep the knurl is cut. So being an aggressive knurl means it's a deep cut knurl. However, within that, there's different types of aggressive knurling in my opinion. There's ones that are grippy and there's ones that are sharp. So for grippy knurl, I look at that as like a volcano cut where you have the tops lopped off of the knurling to offer you more points of contact and the bar then feels very sticky. As opposed to that, there is more of a mountain knurl where the peaks are not cut off, so they're sharp and pointy, and in that case, they are feeling more sharp. So you have aggressive grippy and aggressive sharp. This one falls more into the aggressive grippy category. However, I'll talk about that in just a little while as well. So good knurling on it, and one of the things I'd like to point out is the center knurl on this bar is actually a little bit longer than most other bars I've dealt with. This is about a 6 1/4 inch knurl, as opposed to like the Ohio Power Bar, which is like 4 3/4, or the Kabuki bar that I have, which is like 4 1/2. So you have a longer center knurl, which I like. I'm a big fan of center knurl. In fact, I would love a power bar, a 29mm bar that has a fully knurled shaft, but maybe I'm just sadistic like that. But the knurling on this is great. It's consistent across the entire bar. So the knurling that you have out by the collars is the same as the knurling you're gonna find in the center, is the same as the knurling you're gonna find on the opposite end of the bar as well. I know sometimes with imported bars that tends to be a little bit of an issue. My copy of this bar is not the case. All the knurl marks are pretty cleanly terminated, and I'm generally very happy with this bar and the way it feels, which again is one of the reasons why it's become my daily driver. Now, going out to the actual sleeves themselves, I mentioned that they're chrome sleeves, and some might shake their heads at this and say, oh, it's not the perfect bar. You want stainless steel sleeves to match that stainless steel shaft. And I'm a little bit of the opposite opinion on that. And I say that because, as you probably know, stainless steel is expensive in general. This bar retails for $399. I mentioned it's in stock right now, but I also believe it's on sale. So as of Black Friday, it's been like $379, so $20 off. They haven't changed that sale to my knowledge yet. So $379. But the fact that it has chrome sleeves is going to help keep that cost down. Now, even though most might say that is somewhat of an expensive bar, almost $400, which I would agree, I think you have to take it within context, meaning that when you take a look at the other stainless steel power bars out there, it's right in line with what the pricing is. So for example, I have a Rogue Ohio Power Bar in stainless steel, the 45-pound version, that retails for $395. The 20 kg version, which is more akin to this bar in terms of its technical specs with the competition style collars, is $425. Now the Rep Power Bar EX that I also own is a stainless steel shaft with stainless steel sleeves that does retail for $399, but you get a little bit thicker collars on there. And then also I think like the Kabuki bar, I mentioned that already too, that has an electroless nickel finish, but to get that finish, I think you're gonna be looking at paying like $700 for that bar, so it's not stainless steel, it doesn't have the competition style collars. So all in all, $399 or on sale for $379 is actually a pretty good deal, especially when you factor in the fact that Luxiajun, if you're in the lower 48 states, typically offers free shipping on all of their barbells. So you're not gonna pay that shipping, which in some cases can be up to $50 or more for some barbells out there. So when you take a look at the complete package with the specs behind it, how it feels, how it operates, to me it's a very appealing bar. But like I said, it's not perfect. So the knurling itself is one of the biggest callouts I want to make, because even though I really like it, I mentioned it's more on the grippy side. It has more of that volcano cut with the tops lopped off. If you take a close look at the knurling, what you'll actually find, it's a very rough cut. So it's not as smooth and as clean as you might find on a Rogue Ohio Power Bar. And I've actually passed this information on to Luxiajun. Now, when you feel the bar, when I first got it, there were tons of metal flakes on this bar, which metal flakes on barbells is somewhat common. On part of the knurling process, sometimes they don't clean the bar thoroughly enough and you'll get some metal flakes. You just brush it off, no big deal. I've been using this bar for a couple of weeks now. I've brushed it multiple times and I can still sometimes feel, or if I look at my hand after using it, see some of those metal flakes rub off. Now, even though that's somewhat of a negative in my opinion with a quality control, I'd really like them to have cleaner cuts on here. There's actually a silver lining. Because those cuts aren't really the cleanest and most precise, and some of them tend to be a little bit jagged in the way they were done, it actually makes the bar not only feel grippy, but also kind of sharp. So this definitely feels better in my hands than my Ohio Power Bar in terms of the aggressiveness on the sharpness side. So the Ohio Power Bar to me is very grippy. This one is grippy, but it also has a little bit of a bite to it. So it's almost like a hybrid, and I really like that. I'm not sure if going forward, if they were to clean up, like literally clean up figuratively and literally speaking, their quality control process about how they knurl these bars, if that's going to change. But as is on this copy, it's fantastic. And again, one of the reasons why I actually like it as a daily driver. Now, I mentioned the price point already. That could be a deterrent for some people. Again, I'm assuming if you're going to be looking at this bar, you're looking within the same space of you want a stainless steel power bar. In that case, they're all similarly priced. And this one having free shipping and being on sale for $379 at the time of this video, I think this is also actually appealing in that regard to most people. But if you just are looking for another bar to add to your collection, you don't really care if it's stainless steel, you don't really care that the center knurl on this is a little bit longer or that it has competition style collars, this would probably not be the bar for you in that case, because again, $400 is pretty expensive and you can get some good bars for like the $200 to $300 range. I will also say probably the biggest deterrent for a lot of people based off the comments that I've been reading lately and some of the conversations I've had with you guys is that you might have some of the same hesitations that I had, right? You know, I told you already, this has replaced my Rogue Ohio Power Bar made in the USA as my daily driver. A Luxiajun Chinese Power Bar, which I had never heard of up until about a year ago. I'm sorry, a couple months ago actually, not even a year ago. And it costs about 400 bucks. That's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, but to me at the end of the day, when I take a look at the tech specs behind it, which I said are equal to what I already have, but the feel on it is fantastic, the performance on it is fantastic, and I just can't explain the fact that when I come down here, this is the bar that I've been choosing to use, which I think says a lot about it. So I like this bar a ton. I know a lot of other people that have it so far have really liked it. I think again, the company, where they come from and the price point is a little bit of a red flag to some people. But if this is something you're interested in, I do think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And I'm so confident in that fact that I've made sure that Luxiajun will give me another bar to give away. So if you go to my Instagram page, which will be linked in the description box below, we're gonna be giving one of these away in the next couple of days. Whoever wins this is gonna be one lucky SOB. So go ahead and let me know what you think about the bar below. Questions, comments, anything that you think, or what bar you wanna see me review next. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big. I didn't really know what to do with my hands there.